اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. خل المقادير تمضي لا تغالبها، فإن من غالب الأقدار مغلوب. إن القضاء لسيف لا يقاومه شيء من الخلق إلا وهو محبوب. وامشي رويدا مع الأقدار في مهل، فإن من يكره الأقدار متعوب. سلم وفوض لحكم الله محتسبا، فإنما الأمر مقضي ومكتوب. والله يقضي بما شاء وكيف يشاء، والعبد عبد ومخلوق ومربوب. ولم يزل ربه الرحمن يكلأه، باللطف والحفظ محفوف ومصحوب. حسن ظنونك بالرب الكريم، ولا تسيء ظنا فتبقى عنه محجوب. واعمل لنفسك أعمالا تسر بها، فكل ما يفعل الإنسان محسوب. إن كان خيرا فخير سوف يحصل، أو كان شرا فتنكيل وتعذيب. يا ويل من ضيع الأعمار في زلل، وكل من كسبه الآثام والحوب. واطلب علوما مع إقبال مع عمل، فأنت بالعلم والأعمال مطلوب. واحذر زمانك هذا إنه زمن، به المناكير شاعت والمعايب. فكن وحيدا فريدا خاملا حذرا، فإن فيه الأقاويل الأكاذيب. والظلم فاش بلا لوم ولا نكر، وللمساكين تخويف وترهيب. فكن لبيتك حلسا لا تفارقه، إلا لشيء له في الشرع تصويب. واذكر إلهك ذكرا دائما أبدا، فالذكر بالذكر مقرون ومصحوب. وذاكر الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lesson in the Kitab of Nur Idah, written by Al-Imam Hassan Shugun Bulali. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah bless in this lesson, make it a reason where your sins are forgiven, prayers are answered. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. It has been some time and we have not had any this lesson, and that is any with regards and due to some things that is occupying us in the mosque currently, because we are moving from an old and into a new place. So inshallah, from this weekend onwards, hopefully that we can have our lesson as per schedule, inshallah. So in the Nur Idah, we are still in the chapter of Tayammum, and in our last lesson we spoke about the reasons that make it permissible for us to do Tayammum. So we spoke about not having water. If a person doesn't have any water, and the water that is present and is far away, the author gave this example: كَبُعْدِهِ مِيلًا عَنْ مَاءٍ وَلَوْ فِي الْمِصْرِ. And if there is any water but it is a mile away, So a mile in here it's about 1.8 kilometers. 1.8 any kilometers. If anything that is more than 1.8, then it is permissible for us to do tayammum, because anything that is 1.8 and above is considered to be far. So if it is within any distance that is near, then it is compulsory upon us to use water. Otherwise we can perform any tayammum. So number 2 is when there is a sickness, al-marad. Number 2 is when a person has a sickness, for example, he cannot use water. If he uses any water, the sickness will prolong, or it can lead to death or dysfunction in one of the body parts. Then we can use any tayammum. Number 3, if a person, for example, in a state of coldness, and he or she doesn't have the proper clothing to cover themselves, and if by using any water it can lead to serious consequences and diseases or sicknesses. This is where the author mentioned وَبَرْدٍ يُخَافُ مِنْهُ التَّلَفْ أو الْمَرَضْ خَارِجَ الْمِصْرِ. If this is out of the country, if it is outside of the country, if a person is in a state of coldness and extreme coldness, this we can imagine if a person is staying somewhere in the northern countries, in Iceland, for example, in the time of winter, North Pole and some parts of Russia, if a person doesn't have any proper clothing, then it can lead to death and serious diseases. Number 4, وَخَوْفُ عَدُو. If a person is scared of an enemy, if he goes out to take any water from the river, for example, there is an enemy that is waiting to kill him. In this situation, it is permissible for him to do tayammum if there is no water in his presence. Number 5, if a person he has water, but he is extremely thirsty, atash. So which one does he give any preference? Preference for taking wudu with the water or drinking? Islam mentioned that saving any lives is given any precedence. If given precedence, that if a person permissible for him to drink from the water and then he does any tayammum. Number 6, واحتياج لعجن. If a person he has water but is in need of water. Why? لعجن. Ajn is basically when you put any water in this flour, and then for you to make bread. So without any water you cannot make any the bread. So there is a need for you to use the water. So in this case it's permissible for you to use the water for ajn, for making the bread. That is permissible, and you can do tayammum, and the water can be used for ajn. La li tabakhi maraqin, but not if the water is used for gravy, water for gravy, it is not permissible, meaning the water can be used for tayammum, because this is not a dire need. This is not a dire need. But when it comes to ajn, if there is no water, then people cannot eat from the flour. But different when it comes to maraq, when it comes to the gravy, if there is no water, but still people can consume any food, and prevent from starvation. Number 7, لِفَقْدِ آلَةٍ. If a person doesn't have the proper tools to get the water, from the well, for example, then it is permissible for him to do tayammum, even though there is water. But the problem is there can be no access to the water. Number 8, خوف فوت صلاة جنازة أو عيد ولو بناء فيهما. Now the author gives an example of 2 types of prayers, that is the janazah prayers and the Eid prayers. Meaning, if a person, for example, he comes into the masjid and he wants to perform janazah prayers and he has no wudu, if he said that if I were to take any wudu, the janazah will be over. So in this case, if I do tayammum, I can still get any janazah prayers. So in this situation, in the Hanafi madhab, it is permissible for him to do tayammum. Why? Because janazah prayers cannot be paid back. There is no qada for janazah prayers. Likewise, pertaining to Eid prayers, once it is done, you cannot perform it anymore. So in this situation, if a person doesn't have wudu, and if he were to perform any ablution, then the prayers will be over. So in this situation, it is permissible for him to do tayammum and enter into the prayer, janazah prayer and also the Eid prayer. So that he gets any validity of the prayer. Otherwise, there is no qada. But when it comes to Jum'ah prayers, as what the author mentioned after this, before that he said walau bina'an fihima. Bina'an meaning you enter into the prayer, meaning you enter part of the prayer. For example, janazah prayers, you enter at the fourth takbir. So what happens when the imam does the salam, then you have to continue with your prayers. Now this is the meaning of bina'an. Likewise, when it comes to the Eid any prayers, you enter into the prayers in the second rak'ah, meaning you get the prayers, but you just have to pay one more. وَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْعُذْرِ خَوْفُ فَوْتِ الْجُمْعَةِ. Now the author speaks about the Jum'ah prayers. What happens if Jum'ah prayers, you don't have wudu, and then if you say that if I were to take any wudu, the Jum'ah will be over. In this situation, is it permissible for me to do tayammum? No, it is not permissible. Why? Because Jum'ah prayers we can make up for the prayer by praying Zuhur. But when it comes to janazah and Eid prayers, you cannot make up for those prayers. So there is a difference between the Jum'ah prayers, likewise the Zuhur and Asr. All these prayers can be prayed again. So that is why the author mentioned وَلَيْسَ مِنَ الْعُذْرِ خَوْتُ فَوْتِ الْجُمْعَةِ وَالْوَقْتِ. So it is not permissible, what you call it, a person, for example, leave the Jum'ah any prayers for tayammum for example. And if a person is late for Jum'ah prayers, and he said that if I were to take any my ablution, the Jum'ah prayers will be over, so now I am going to the tayammum. Now this is not permissible, because Jum'ah prayers can be prayed again, meaning can be make up for the prayer by praying any Zuhur. Al-Thalis an yakuna tayammum bitahirin min jinsil ardi. Number 3, the author speaks about when we do any tayammum, what do we do the tayammum with? So he said an yakuna tayammumu bitahir, yani the soil or the dust that we are using from tayammum, it must be pure, min jinsil ardi, and it must be something that comes from the earth, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Sa'id is anything that comes from the earth. So that is why the author mentioned بِطَاهِرٍ مِنْ جِنْسِ الْأَرْضِ. So it must be pure, and it must be something that originates from the earth. كَالتُّرَابِ, like the soil, وَالْحَجَرِ, stones, وَرَمَل, the sand. So if for example I do tayammum on soil, I do tayammum on the stones, I do tayammum on sand, it is permissible. Why? Because all these things are elements that comes from the earth. Lal hatab, not this wood. Wood is different, wood comes from trees. Likewise wal fiddati wal dahabi, because these are metals. These are metals. It is not from jinsil ard. It is not from things that comes from the earth and soil, but it is a different types of element altogether. So it is not permissible to do tayammum on both. Warabi', number 4, isti'abul mahal bil mashi. Number 4, when we do any tayammum, we have to make sure that the dust enters into that we encompass the whole face and the whole hands. This is the meaning of isti'ab. Isti'abul mahal bil mashi. We wipe our whole face, and we wipe our hands. So it is compulsory upon us to remove rings, if you are wearing rings for example. So anything that prevents any soil from reaching, we have to make sure that it is not there. Al-Khamis, number 5, an yamsaha bi jami'il yad. When we wipe our face, we wipe with the whole hands. It is not permissible to wipe with 2 hands or 1 finger. It is not permissible, because in the Quran Allah mentioned فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ. He mentioned فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he speaks about wiping of the face and the hands. So it has to be wiped. So he mentioned ayamsaha bi jami'il yad, and with the whole hand, aw bi akthariha, or with most of it. Because now when we speak about hands, we are speaking any about this whole any hands or the most any of it. But what happens any if a person any wipes any bi usbu'ain? So he say la yajuz. The author any mentioned this is not permissible because this is not any considered to be hands. In the Quran, any Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the word bi aidikum. Bi aidikum. Aid yani what you call it refers any to the hands. That is why in the Hanafi madhab it is not any permissible except that we do tayammum any with the hands. If anything that is not considered to be the hands, then it is not permissible. Like one finger, this is not this considered to be finger, but if I do this, this considered to be any the hands. La yajuzu walau karra hatta staw'aba. It is not permissible and if two isba'. This is the example the author any gave. Even any we can cover any the whole face, but with two fingers. Bi khilafi mashi ras. But different any when it comes into wiping any of the head, because in the Quran when it comes into the wiping of the head, wamsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum ila al-ka'bayn wamsahu bi ru'usikum. So it is not any specific any when it comes into the hands. But when it comes into tayammum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned fatayammamu sa'idan tayyiba wamsahu bi yani wipe anyway your face and your hands. Naam. As-sadis an yakuna bi darbatain bi batinil kaffain. Number 6 any that we use any with two taps. One tap any for the face and one tap any for the hands. Walau fi makanin wahid. And even any if we do it any at the same place. Now, so the next thing any the author any mentioned وَيَقُومُ مَقَامَ ضَرْبَةٍ إِصَابَةُ التُّرَابِ جَسَدَهُ إِذَا مَسَعَهُ بِنِيَّةِ التَّيَمُّمِ. So now when the author any mentioned likewise any when a person any does any tayammum, if for example any the dust any touches any the body and then he makes the intention any of tayammum. Now this is any a situation anywhere, for example anywhere there is dust any that is in the air. So is it permissible any for me any to use any my hands and to take any the dust and do any tayammum? So now any what the author any is saying that there is no tapping, because tapping any we tap any on the earth. But if any there is dust any in the air, what you call it, then it is permissible any for us any to take any the dust any from the air, and by making any the intention any of tayammum, then it will be valid. Likewise any in the Mazhab Imam Shafi'i and we speak any about this, and if there is a sandstorm, so we take any the dust any from the air with the intention of tayammum and we wipe any our face, we do it again and wipe any our hands. So meaning there is no tapping, but the dust any is present any in the air. As-sabi' inqita'u ma yunafi. Number 7 condition and number 7 is that there is nothing that present what you call it that is that nullifies it. For example, min haydin or nifasin or hadathin, yani if a person in a state any of hayd any for example, so there is no point any of doing any tayammum because hayd any is mani'. Likewise any postnatal bleeding, or in a state any of hadath, when a person any is in a state any of hadath, then what you call it, the tayammum any becomes any invalidated. Athamin zawalu ma yamna'u al-masha 'ala al-bashara ka sham'in wa shahmin. If there is anything any that prevents the dust any from entering the skin, the author any give any shama. Shama any is wax, like if a person any has wax, or shahm yani this kind any of grease that prevents any the dust any from reaching the skin, it is not valid. The tayammum any is not valid. Wasababuhu wa shurutu wujubihi kama dhukira fil wudu. And likewise any when comes any to the conditions, other conditions, and the conditions any of its obligation, it is the same any as mentioned any in the chapter of wudu. And the integrals any for tayammum, masful yadain wal wajh. These are the two integrals, yani wiping any of the hands and wiping any of the face. Wallahu alam ani bisawab. In our next lesson inshallah yani we will speak any about the sunnahs any of tayammum. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.